Prabhu. This is the first time I'm doing here. So,
Yeah, Mataji, what are you going to speak on?
just Bhagavad Gita. Mataji told that any book, Prabhupada's
Yeah, right.
book.
So you can just start with Mangalacharan prayers and then you can start the class, Mataji.
Okay. Do you sing Jai Radha Madhava or no?
I mean, you if you like, you can sing Mataji, but not necessary.
Okay. I would sing then.
Okay, sure, Mataji.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jai Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jai Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jai Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada जय श्री श्री राधा माधवाष्ट सखी की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्ता नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Welcome everybody and please accept my humble obeisances, all the devotees and especially Pyare Mohan Prabhu and Jiva Mataji. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to share my realizations on Bhagavad Gita. So let me share my screen. Can you see my screen, Prabhu?
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. So I wanted to go over this topic of Sthitipragya, one who's situated in fixed Krishna consciousness. So the verse that is related to that, this is the beginning of that topic. So I thought I would recite that. Arjuna uvacha sthitapragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stitadhi kim prapasheta kimasita vrajeta kim. Prabhu, will anybody repeat? Is that the procedure, or should I just read and then move on?
Both the options are there, Mataji. Generally, we have Bhagavad Gita class every weekday. So that time we definitely repeat. But now also, if devotees like to repeat, we can do that.
Yeah. If any other devotees would like to chant, please go ahead and chant.
Arjuna Vacha Sthitaprajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stitati kim prapasheta kimasita vrajeta kim.
Anyone else?
Arjuna Vacha Sthitapragnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stitadhim kim prabhasheta kim ashita vrajeta kim.
Okay. Synonyms. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, Sthita pragnasya, of one who is situated, fixed in Krishna consciousness. Ka, what? Bhasha, language. Samadhistasya, of one situated in trance. Keshava, O Krishna. Sthitadhi, one fixed in Krishna consciousness. Kim, what? Prabhasheta, speaks. Kim, how? Asita, does remain still. Vrajeta, walks. Kim, how? Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? How does he speak and what is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk? As there are symptoms for each and every man in terms of his particular situation, similarly, one who is Krishna conscious has his particular nature, talking, walking, thinking, feeling, etc. As a rich man has his symptoms by which he is known as a rich man, as a diseased man has his symptoms by which he is known as diseased, or as a learned man has his symptoms. So a man in transcendental consciousness of Krishna has specific symptoms in various dealings. One can know his specific symptoms from the Bhagavad Gita. Most important is how the man in Krishna consciousness speaks. For speech is the most important quality of any man. It is said that a fool is undiscovered as long as he does not speak. And certainly a well-dressed fool cannot be identified unless he speaks. But as soon as he speaks, he reveals himself at once. The immediate symptom of a Krishna conscious man is that he speaks only of Krishna and of matters relating to him. Other symptoms then automatically follow as stated below. So this is where Arjuna is asking Krishna about the qualities of a person who is fixed in transcendental consciousness. So all the subsequent verses, Krishna explains various qualities of a person who's fixed up. So I just group them into 6 qualities. And then we'll go over all of those a little bit. And I summarized the purports of Srila Prabhupada related to each quality, and then we can discuss about that. Whatever is presented in our books, if devotees wants to add, they are welcome to add. So the first quality is he gives up all kinds of sense gratification and he finds satisfaction in the self alone. So all the sense desires that we have, they come from mental concoction. So the definition of concoction is something that we fabricate. It is not something that is given to us by someone else, but something that we fabricate in our mind. So this mental concoction, it is the opposite of transcendental consciousness. So transcendental consciousness is something that we learn from the scriptures. Whereas mental concoctions, they're not originated from pure source. They are originated from the minds of material living entities, the living entities who are conditioned. So this kind of manufacturing is for people who are not fixed up. This mental concoction is not for people who are fixed up. And these sense desires which originate from mental concoction, they cannot be artificially stopped. The sense desires can only be stopped when we engage in the service of Krishna. So, for example, the desire to own a big house or the desire to become somebody in the materialistic world, to achieve certain kind of position, these are the things that are not given by the scriptures. They are not the ultimate goal as far as the scriptures are concerned. But we try to take pleasure in those. We try to satisfy our body, our mind, our intelligence by fabricating these desires. So when we have those desires, then we cannot be satisfied with ourselves. This is like we are looking for some external objects to feel satisfaction. Sometimes the external objects can be gross, sometimes they can be subtle. Like having a lot of money or having a big house, or having some nice food to eat, and nice beds to sleep on. Those things are gross things, but these desires can even extend to subtle desires, having fame, adoration, and distinction. So those are all material desires, and when we have those for satisfaction, we are looking towards those objects, subtle and gross objects, for satisfaction. We think we'll be satisfied if we have those things. So this is looking for satisfaction in the external objects. But if we have transcendental loving service to Krishna, what kind of loving service? It is transcendental loving service. So transcendental means something that is not contaminated by material propensities, that is not contaminated by material desires. So when we engage in that kind of service, then we are not looking for external objects for satisfaction. Then we can take pleasure in being the servant. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that we need to be happy, to be engaged in transcendental loving service. So when we are satisfied like that, we don't need external objects to derive some pleasure. We are satisfied in our own self. That is the pure state. That is the opposite of mental concoctions. So the root of sense desires is mental concoction, and the root of transcendental consciousness is scriptures. So whatever happiness we derive by the senses, it is temporary, and we may get something for time being, but it won't satisfy us completely forever. We need to look for something else to gain more satisfaction. Whereas transcendental consciousness, the satisfaction that we get is complete. It doesn't need more again and again. And the second quality that Krishna mentions is a devotee is not disturbed amid threefold miseries. Threefold miseries is adhyatmika, adidaivika, and adibhautika. So misery is caused by our own self, misery is caused by the demigods, misery is caused by other living entities. Any kind of misery does not disturb a pure devotee. So it's like when we read something in the scriptures, there are different ways people try to rationalize those things. Suppose if we read this sentence that one is not disturbed by any miseries. So does that mean we become hard-hearted? Does that mean that we become emotionless? Sometimes when there is no proper guidance, it may be taken that way. And then people may become very hard-hearted. Some spiritual people may become very hard-hearted, just thinking that you should not be disturbed. You should not show any emotions. but that's not what it is. That's where the guidance from senior devotees helps, senior devotees and spiritual master, because they have seen the truth, means they have understood how to implement the scriptures in practical life. What does this actually mean? So they'll help us in different situations in life on how to understand and how to actually follow what the scriptures are saying. If we don't have proper guidance, sometimes scriptures may be implemented in a wrong way, which may result in being hard-hearted or being too sentimental, like that. So in this verse, in the purport, Prabhupada paraphrases Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Tattenu kampam susamikshamanam bhunjana evatmakram vipakam rivagvapurbir vidata namaste jivetayo muktipade sadaya bhak. So the translation for that is, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So this is the procedure by which a pure devotee tolerates, a pure devotee will not be disturbed by all the threefold miseries. So he thinks he's just eating what he has cooked in the past. Something that he atmakritam vipakam means he cooked himself. All these sinful activities that he has performed in the past, he is suffering the reactions of that. When we think like that, then there is no need to get disturbed, because no one else is responsible for what we are going through. It's our own self, because we have done certain things and we are suffering the reactions of that now. But again, Prabhupada explains later in the purport that we should not think that pure devotees actually are going through their past karma, because once they surrender to the Lord, there is no karma, because Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita that he liberates us from all the past sinful activities once we completely surrender to him. But sometimes Krishna actually makes devotees go through a certain suffering so that they may completely get rid of even the sinful proclivities that they may have in the heart. Sometimes we may not be committing any sinful activities, but there are certain tendencies that will remain in the heart. Even the tendencies have to be cleansed. Only then will become completely pure. Only then there is no possibility of committing any further sinful activities. That is like complete cleansing. So sometimes Krishna makes pure devotees go through certain things so that they may even get rid of those sinful proclivities. So, and also he makes sure that there is no desire left to enjoy separately from Krishna. Krishna's enjoyment ultimately is our enjoyment. That's the pure devotion. And when we have even any tinge of enjoying separately, Krishna will purify it. So that's why sometimes we may see pure devotees also going through certain difficulties. So Prabhupada makes sure that we don't think of it as past sinful activities. In general, for a normal human being, it may be is because of past sinful activities, but not for the pure devotees. And the third thing that Krishna mentions is he's not elated when there is happiness. So generally, if something nice happens to us, then we keep on thinking about it, and we think, oh, how nice it is that I got this opportunity. How nice it is that I am respected. It's so nice that, I got this material accomplishment. But a devotee thinks it's always due to the mercy of the Lord. It is not just a sentiment, but anything with knowledge a devotee can think. All we can do is desire something. Even for the body to function, the super soul has to permit. Even for us to move a hand or a leg, we don't have any independent energy or potency to even move our hands and legs. It is only by the mercy of the Lord we can do certain things. Anything we do is because of the mercy of the Lord. Only if He sanctions, things will happen. So, with that knowledge, one can acknowledge that everything that happens is because of the mercy of the Lord. And happiness for a devotee is not material accomplishments actually. When he can render better service to the Lord, that is the happiness for a devotee. And rendering service to the Lord is, of course, because of His mercy. Unless the Lord allows us to do some service, we cannot do any service for Him. So, with that knowledge, in complete realization, a pure devotee can deal with happiness properly. And the fourth one is he does not have any attachment, fear, or anger. So, attachment generally is when we accept things for our own sense gratification. Suppose we have been doing something that, which is given to us, and suddenly someone comes and they take it, and then we feel like, oh, I want to do it. I don't know why this other person is doing it. So when we feel like that, that means we have taken it as a means of our gratification. That means we have developed a wrong kind of attachment to that particular thing that we have been doing. So that attachment is not there for a pure devotee, because his whole existence is for the pleasure of the Lord. If the Lord is using me for a certain thing, for His pleasure, then I'm going to do that for His pleasure. And if He wants to use me in a different way, I'll do that too, because that's what is going to give Him the pleasure. There is no factor of me gaining any sense gratification by that. Because he doesn't have any attachment, he'll not become angry also when his attempts become unsuccessful. The enthusiasm of a pure devotee does not depend on the results he accomplishes when he does any activity, because the activity itself is an offering for the Lord. And he's not attached to material things, but even spiritual things, if he fails, if he cannot accomplish something, he doesn't become angry. So, whereas if we're enthusiastic in the mode of passion, like if we are passionate, then we are focused on the results. We are only happy if there are the results, and we'll become very disturbed if there are no results, or if they are not as we expect. Then we become very angry, we become very disturbed, and we try to find various reasons for it not being so-called successful. Any activity is successful if we do it in proper mode, if we cultivate proper mode, and if we offer it in proper mode, then it is successful. It is not based on how much result we are getting out of it. Results will automatically be given by the Lord. When He wants that particular thing to happen, it will happen. But we should also maintain enthusiasm. We should not just think, okay, I should not think about success or failure, so I won't stretch myself to do a perfect job. That should not motivate one to become like that. It should, the enthusiasm should always be there to please the Lord. We should always give our best for the Lord, but we should not be angry when the attempts become unsuccessful. And then the fifth one is he's unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain. So he's perfectly knowledgeable about the duality of this world. So this world is full of duality. There is happiness, there is distress, there is success, there is failure, there is heat, there is cold. So he won't take it too seriously if things go other way. If he sees good people, if he sees bad people, he won't take it too seriously. It's just the mental makeup. It's because of the situation that we are in. So many times we see that the mentality of people also changes over time. We may see somebody as very like-minded at some point of time, but then according to the circumstances that a person goes through, sometimes the mental makeup also changes. So it's not like, good and evil in this world is permanent either. It's just temporary, and then those two things will exist forever. This is not a place of perfection like spiritual world. So we should get used to looking at both good and bad and not be too disturbed about it, because the ultimate goal of life is to serve Krishna. Even in the life, we go through many good situations, many bad situations, but the ultimate goal of life is to serve Krishna, whether it is a good situation or a bad situation. In good situations, we thank Krishna, and then we try to meditate on him in a grateful mood. And in bad situations, we take shelter of him and we try to meditate on him, thinking that I may not get too engrossed in the situation and forget about you. Continuously we have to think of Krishna, whether it is good or bad. So it doesn't matter. The ultimate conclusion is the goal of life is not to associate with the situation we are in, or with the surroundings we are in, or with the people we are associating with. It's not that, but the ultimate goal of life is to think of Krishna and serve Krishna. It doesn't depend on the external circumstances. And the sixth thing that Krishna mentions is Sthitipragya, person who is fixed in Krishna consciousness. He is able to withdraw senses from sense objects. So whenever he wants, he can withdraw senses. There is no when a tortoise wants to withdraw its senses, it doesn't need any time. It can immediately retract into the shell. So here Prabhupada mentions that the senses are like snakes. The senses are very dangerous. If we let even one sense go loose, then it will drag us to complete fall down. So we have to be completely careful with every sense. And all these snakes, they have to be charmed, just like a snake charmer is charming all these snakes here. So we have to control these senses somehow or the other. So after this, Krishna goes into a lot of detail about the process of controlling the senses. He goes through how they get pulled. So in that he mentions that the process starts with meditating on the objects of the senses. We have these big billboards in India. Everywhere they have these big billboards, and they advertise all these different things like cars and movies. And so what a normal person who goes through that road does is he sees all those billboards every day, and then because of that the thought enters into the mind, the meditation enters. They think, oh, I wish I could have that, I wish I could watch that movie. So that's how they enter into the mind. All these advertising companies, they're very good at the science. So they enter the mind, and dhyato vishayan pumsa sangasteshu upajayate. So from meditation, the attachment to have it develops, and from that lust comes. Sangat sanjayate kama. So I want to have it, that desire, that strong desire to satisfy the senses with that particular sense object, that starts at that time. And then we contemplate, and then that's how we try to satisfy. And when we cannot satisfy, then anger comes. So we have to, like, we all know that in Kali Yuga, just by thinking of something, we won't incur any sin. But that's where the process begins of fall down. If we see something that we should not see, if we see something that is attractive to senses that we should not do, then we should immediately turn away. We should not continue to see it, because through that medium the contemplation begins. And after we contemplate, then the desire becomes very strong to have that particular thing. So just by restraining, though, the senses won't be controlled. Senses have to be engaged in the service of the Lord. For every sense, there is a service that we need to do. The tongue can be used to taste prasadam. The nose can be used for smelling the flowers that are offered to the Lord, and the incense that is offered to the Lord. And ears can hear the holy name. Tongue can also chant the holy name. And legs can be used to go to the temple. Hands can be used to clean the temple of the Lord. So like that, for every sense, there is a corresponding spiritual activity that we need to do to control. And that we need to figure out, which sense is lacking. Sometimes, in the beginning days, we may see that we are weak in some senses. So we need to really scientifically examine what we are weak in and what I may need to be able to control that particular sense, so that I may gain control over senses. So senses are one thing, and then the mind comes next. So controlling the mind can be very, very difficult. Controlling the mind can be more difficult than controlling the wind, like Arjuna says. So that can only be controlled if we can chant and hear attentively. Mantra is for controlling the mind. So if we can chant and hear attentively, that's how the mind can be controlled. And then as we purify the senses, as we purify the mind, we can see the impurities in the intelligence. Sometimes, for many, many years and many, many lifetimes, we may not even go up higher than the senses. But once we go up higher than the senses, there is mind and there is intelligence, there is false ego. And overcoming each of those is more difficult than the one before it. And it will take time, but by the mercy of the Guru Parampara and by the mercy of the process that Srila Prabhupada has given, and the association of senior devotees, spiritual masters, and equals, and even while we preach, the senses will get purified. So the whole process that Prabhupada has given us is complete in itself, and once we follow that sincerely, then there is no possibility of having any difficulty with the senses. So that's all I have for today, but I'll open up for comments of all the devotees on what they would want to add from maybe other scriptures, and if they have any questions or comments, please go ahead and share.
I have a question.
Yes, Prabhu.
When you mentioned about the pure devotee, that he doesn't suffer any sinful reactions, but sometimes there may be some suffering because he has, even though he's not committing any sins, he may still have sinful desires in his heart. So now, how is he a pure devotee then? I'm not sure what the definition of pure devotee. And is there a pure devotee? What about a pure devotee who doesn't have any sinful desires in his heart and he's still suffering?
I just got it from the purport of Srila Prabhupada. That's what exactly he mentioned, that sometimes pure devotees, they seem like they're suffering past misdeeds. He's using this to tell us that they are not suffering past misdeeds. It is Krishna's arrangement for them to get rid of. Like, even if sometimes we may not engage in any sinful activities, there are some inclinations left in the heart which are very subtle. We may not see also. So let me open the purport and then I can read and explain. Two. Advanced view. Okay. Okay. So this is the purport from which I got it, Prabhu, 56. So I actually got it from the Tatenu Kampam purport, because Prabhupada is referring to that verse here. I went to that verse and I read the purport of that. And that's where I got it from. 10, 14, and 8. So he actually doesn't say pure devotee, he just says a devotee. A devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is perfectly conscious. He is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness. He may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. And also, however, because in his mind, a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. So it's a devotee. I should have used a devotee, not pure devotee.
So what is it when the pure devotee seems to be suffering? Just like we see, I mean, Srila Prabhupada and the Mahabharata and so many things, there's so many devotees seem to be, and they're all pure devotees. So what is that? Why are they suffering?
I think Krishna is showing us how great his devotees are in terms of Pandavas. He made them go through so many things just to glorify them, how exalted they are, and how one should learn from them to be equipoised in different situations. That's what I think, Prabhu. I heard it in...
Yeah, I agree with you.
One time to one devotee, Prabhupada was asked that question, and Prabhupada said, "The love bites." Like sometimes the lover bites the beloved. Love bites.
Yeah, the more dear a person is to Krishna, I think, according to the mundane world, the more suffering they go through. I heard some Maharaj saying that, oh Baba, you want to become a pure devotee, then you have to suffer according to the mundane world. But when a devotee who's very elevated, if he is seemingly suffering, also internally he's blissful.
But it's like you said, Krishna likes to glorify his devotee. He shows how they're not deterred from their service to Krishna, even though they may appear to suffer so much.
Yes, yes.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I have a quick question for you. So Mataji, you said in the beginning of the session that the sense pleasures are due to mental concoction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when a person does some kind of sense gratification, for him, that sense pleasure is real. I mean, he is getting real pleasure out of it. Like a drunkard is getting some pleasure, you know. So you can take any pleasure and there, at least the sense pleasure seems real to that person. So how can we say that it is mental concoction where you can actually feel the pleasure coming from that activity?
They think it is pleasure because they are covered. Their conception of pleasure is perverted. That's actually not pleasure, but they think it is pleasure. Like as we advance, we can see certain things don't give us any pleasure because we have experienced higher pleasure. They think it is pleasure because they haven't experienced any higher pleasure than that. That's the reason why it's mental concoction. They don't know what actually the pleasure is. And in the material world, what is pleasure? It's cessation of miseries. When there are no miseries, people think it's pleasure. A drunkard is actually in a miserable condition. People who drink, they tell that it's not pleasure. You know, at that time you just talk nonsense. You don't even know what you're talking about, and then the next day you have hangover and you don't feel any pleasure. This kind of pleasure is in the mode of ignorance. It's neither during the activity nor afterwards it's pleasurable.
Mataji, thank you.
No problem.
If no one else has any questions, I came across a nice prayer in Chaitanya Charitamrita, but I want to give chance to anyone who may have any questions or comments before I read this.
Sure.
I have one more question. When do you begin to feel pleasure completely in Krishna consciousness? When does that come?
We all feel to a certain extent, right? In various activities that we do feel a certain,
Temporarily, yes, I fully agree with that. But how
Yesterday,
do you?
you have been coming for like 40 years now to the temple.
That's what I'm saying. Even after 40 years, you do not feel that complete pleasure in Krishna
If you don't
consciousness
feel, then you
all
would
the
stop.
time,
Yeah, if you don't feel any pleasure, you would have stopped long time ago. You're continuing to do that activity. No one does any particular activity for so many years outside and still feel good about it. So you do feel certain pleasure. That's why you go. You mean there are different levels of ecstasy, different levels of realization. It depends on how purely we are practicing and how much surrendered we are and all those things. But we all are making advancement and we all have certain level of nishtha, and based on that we get ruchi. We get taste for different.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you.
I have another comment question.
Yes, please.
You mentioned how we can we control the senses and then the mind. It seems like you have to use your intelligence to start, and then with your mind, you have to use your mind to control your senses. It's like, why would I control my senses if I didn't use some intelligence? So it seems like I agree that just controlling your senses is not necessarily controlling your mind, but at least it's your mind that gets you to at least control that much, you know, which is a start. Because it's for you have to control your lower self by your higher self.
Yes.
So I just don't want people to misunderstand. Just there has to be some reason for you to control your senses. You know, so you have to have something before the senses. In other words, why I should do it. So there has to be some intelligence, and then you use that intelligence to control your mind, and then you control your senses. It's not your mind is completely controlled, because even though your senses, your gross senses may be controlled, but you know you still want profit, adoration, distinction, and that's the subtle sense gratification.
Yes. Yeah, that's the healthy state of mind. What you mentioned is the healthy state of mind. The intelligence controls the mind and mind controls the senses. But when we are completely conditioned, you know, if someone sees a donut, they run after that, and the mind makes plans for getting that donut for the satisfaction of the tongue. So this is perverted chain. This is the way the senses influence the mind and mind influences the intelligence. So, but the reason why I was mentioning it is like once we have all the senses controlled, that doesn't mean we have the mind completely controlled. But if you have the mind completely controlled, that means that we have the senses completely controlled.
Yes, and I think the people who can't control their senses the most when it comes to donuts are policemen.
And they control us. So by that hierarchy, then false ego is the hardest to control, Mataji, is that?
Yeah, if we don't have any false ego, that means we are liberated. We are liberated. There is a detailed explanation in Srimad Bhagavatam on, you know, how each layer is like 10 times more than.
Where? Which part?
I don't exactly know which chapter or which canto. I think it could be second canto, where all these details of how all the material elements are created is given, and then how when it comes to the time of overcoming how each one is more difficult than the one before.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mataji, I have one more question before I read that prayer I was mentioning.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, I'm just trying to recollect my question I had. So you mentioned about the subtle things that we have, subtle desires, fame, etc. We may have. So now we know that some materialists will have that, and when those materialists become devotees, then they might want to apply that in connection with Krishna consciousness. I mean, when they're doing Krishna conscious activities, they want some kind of adoration, some kind of acknowledgement, some kind of fame. So is it good, is it bad, or like what do you feel about it? What do you think about it?
So it's not good or bad, but it's not pure. Like, you know, if we perform certain devotional service activity for fame, then we won't get the benefit of performing transcendental loving service completely, because we have this material desire associated with that particular activity. And then we'll also have reactions for that. When we perform completely, you know, without any desire, even mentally, for anything, then we get that much of transcendental result for that activity. And if we perform with material contaminations, material desires associated with that particular activity, we may get that material fame and recognition, But just like if we do any activity in the outside world, it has karma associated with it. Similarly, if we do the same thing here, there is also karma associated with that activity. So we won't be karma free. And then eventually when it comes to the end of life, then we are not completely purified. So we might go to heavenly planets where there is a lot of fame and adoration, and we get a big position, and we can lord over so many living entities, control different things like Indra can control. So that would be the result. So it's always important to understand the goal of life and align ourselves with that goal of life every day. One devotee once he went and he said, Prabhupada, I think we should look at ourselves every day and see, where our motivation is and adjust accordingly, rectify if it's not proper, so he realized it and he went and shared with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, why just once a day? Every moment we have to think. We have to align ourselves to the will of the Lord. As long as we have any separate desire to enjoy, we are in the material world. We are not going to go to the spiritual world.
But there is one more pastime, Mataji, with Prabhupada, where I forgot which temple it was, but Prabhupada was visiting a temple, I believe here in America itself. And there was a devotee who used to do wonderful kirtan. And at that, when Prabhupada was visiting, the temple management asked him to do kirtan. And he was doing the kirtan. And after the kirtan was over, Prabhupada came to him and said that that was really wonderful. I have not heard such a nice kirtan ever. That is the best kirtan I have heard. And so this devotee replied to Prabhupada, thank you, Srila Prabhupada, but sometimes I get proud because of this. So Prabhupada replied that, so what's wrong with that? And then he just left from there. So now, I mean, you can take it to mean either way. So
you can be, you can be satisfied that you are rendering nice service to Krishna. And you can be happy that Krishna is using us. We can be happy that Krishna is using us as an instrument for his service. But we should also be conscious that Krishna can use anybody for his service. It doesn't have to be just us.
Yeah, but isn't it also true that slowly, even if a person may come in with that particular, he may initially have those kind of motivations, but over a period of time, he'll get purified.
Yes, yes. That's where all the reactions will come in. Krishna will purify. Krishna will purify with whatever motive we may engage in devotional service. Krishna will eventually purify us. But we should not think that it's okay to have it. That's all. Sometimes, we may not help it, but have it. But we should know that this is not perfect, but this is where I am at. I eventually want to be at the pure level. That's what we should think. And it's okay. We all are not perfect. We all have certain things that we need to go over, certain impurities that we all know about ourselves, that should not stop us from engaging in service. So whatever service we do, we should continue to do, praying to Krishna that please help me engage in your transcendental loving service. That's where the chanting comes into place. Chanting sets the mood for the rest of the services. That's the prayer that we make every day to Krishna, that engage me in transcendental loving service. So that's where the quality also comes. Quantity is there, but quality is determined by the quality of the rounds that we do.
I have a question for Ganapati Govind.
I'm not the speaker. I'll pass the question to Mataji.
Where did you get this from? Where when the devotee says, sometimes I become proud, and Prabhupada says, So what's wrong? What's wrong with that, or nothing wrong with that?
I think it's on the Vanipedia, Prabhuji. I will look it up and I'll share it with you. Vanipedia is the site, right, where all the Prabhupada's pastimes are there and his.
But I don't. I mean, I could see Prabhupada saying, "That's okay. You'll get purified. If you keep chanting, maybe something like that." But what's wrong with that? There is something wrong with that. I was in Vrindavan once when Prabhupada came back from a walk, and there was this devotee chanting in kirtan or bhajan, I don't remember, but it was on the loudspeaker in Vrindavan coming out, and Prabhupada's car stopped, and Prabhupada got out. Now, he was chanting, it sounded nice, but Prabhupada says, "Who is that Rakshasa leading kirtan?" And I know who it was, I'm not going to say, but because he was like proud, he was thinking he's so good, but that's what Prabhupada can just tell that just by the way he was leading kirtan. Who was that Rakshasa leading kirtan? So, you don't want to chant like I'm the greatest chanter and think that while you're chanting.
But Pyari, he might have known this person's motive. This person's motive might have been that he's doing a nice thing for Krishna and feeling proud that he can do it. He might have known his motive. But I'd like send that to me also, Ganpati Govind. I'd like to see it also where Prabhupada said that.
Yeah, send it to everybody on this thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I asked that question. I take it back.
If Prabhupada said that, I'd like to see it too. But I'm thinking if, like Mataji said, Prabhupada might have known his motive and said that,
Please forget everything whatever happened in this class today.
Having one's gone, one never returns.
Even if some devotee said that, I'm not going to just accept it because it's not in line with the philosophy. It's okay to be proud. I can see I get proud sometimes because I chant, but that's okay. You'll get purified by chanting. Yeah. That I can see, but not that there's nothing wrong with being proud. There is something wrong with being proud.
That's okay. It'll go away.
Pride cometh before the fall.
But it depends on how you're feeling proud, Pyari. I mean, it may not have been proud in an egotistical way,
Well, how else are you going to be proud of? My kirtans are so great, but I'm not in an egotistical way.
So many stories of devotees being proud and Prabhupada ignoring them or dismissing them, and so many like that.
Yeah. He made people he made people sing who did not have such a good voice, but he thought they were really good, as opposed to people who had a really good voice and were proud. He did not want them to sing. Yeah, there's so many instances of that.
Yeah, so we'll wait for that story.
I did not attend the class today.
And Pyari, I have to know who that Rakshasa is from you. I'll call you later.
Well, you probably don't. I don't think anybody here knows him anyway. But,
oh, okay.
But we can learn from these things, Prabhupada can tell instantaneously when somebody's singing, thinking they're such a great singer. Sometimes we can think that too, about some singers, that might seem like they're really puffed up. I know one person like that.
No, remember the story? Remember the conversation he had with Tamal Krishna Maharaj and made him feel like he was like a nobody.
Yes. And that's what Prabhupada did when someone became proud. Krishna Maharaj, he did it in a very humorous way, but to the point. It was becoming proud, and Prabhupada said that you're because he was a temple commander. So you're the temple commander of one temple in Los Angeles that has so many temples and churches, and it's just one city in the whole state of California, which is just one state of the United States, and it's just one country in so many countries, and it's one planet in millions of planets, and then there's billions of universes, and you're proud that you're a temple commander in one of these. He did something similar to that, and got the point across. Another time with Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked Srila Prabhupada, what's the difference between, and I think this isn't good for all of us to know, what's the difference between calling a spade, fault finding, and blasphemy? And Prabhupada first started out with calling a spade, just like I say to you, you're nothing but a small fig. That's calling a spade a spade. And what were the other two things? And then he answered those. With fault finding is basically just what it is. Somebody has some fault, and you see it, you point out their fault. And blasphemy, he was saying when there was nothing even there, there was really no fault, and you're finding fault. That's blasphemy. So I was happy to hear that, because I'm just a fault finder. I'm not a blasphemer.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, all like it's 5 o'clock. Just time check.
Okay, sorry.
Ganpati Govind, you had a prayer, so I guess we'll have to do that another time.
I am not in the class today, Mataji.
Okay.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev.
Evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
It's properly situated.
Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Devi Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Shingadev Bhavan Shri Giraj Maharaj Acharya Jagadguru Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Rama
Hare
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabrajakacharya Jasa Tara Sata Shri Shri Maharaj Divine Grace Shila Bhai Charanaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parabrajakacharya Jasa Tara Sata Shri Shri Maharaj Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Shila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Prem Sikahor Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai.
Jai.
Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Mayapur Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai.
Jai.
Ganga Mai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Purna Mai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai.
Jai.
Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Gauni Tai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Gauni Tai Ki Jai.
Jai.
Purna Shinga Deva Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Shalagram Shilas Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai.
O Premanandi.
Hare Hare.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Sri
Nama
You can chant Krishna.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Prahlada Daine. भगवान की जय, महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, पाद की जय, महाराज की जय, समेत भक्तवृंद की
जय।
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on our Sunday program online today. It is great to see Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Devi back at the altar again. Unfortunately, we do not have any program sponsors for today. So if anybody is interested to sponsor our program for today or for any of our upcoming Sunday programs, you can sponsor for only $125. And for that, you can contact His Grace Pyare Mohan Prabhuji or Her Grace Jiva Mataji at the number shown on your screen. Next Sunday, September 13th, is Ekadashi. Hari Bol! It is recommended for those of us who can to fast from grains and beans on that day. And also it is recommended to engage in more spiritual activities like chanting more rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, as well as reading more of Srila Prabhupada's books. Fast break is on Monday, September 14th. And we will be organizing a special Ekadashi Bhajan Kirtan program We are planning, the tentative time is 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. We're planning a morning slot this time because it's a Sunday. And subsequently, on finalization, we will be sending out a communication via email as well as through our WhatsApp groups. A quick reminder of our regular online programs. We have a host of programs that are running right now, almost on a day-to-day basis. Some are weekly programs. So you can find the details also on our ISKCON of Connecticut website. And the Sri Ishopanishad discussion is the latest addition to that list, which is every Saturday from 7 to 8 in the evening. For more details, you can definitely look up our website. The participation details are also displayed on your screen. It is the standard ISKCON of Connecticut Zoom line. And now we will have more chanting for our,
One more announcement.
Yes.
Tuesday, Jayadoita Swami will be giving the Bhagavad Gita class from 7 to 8.
Haribol!
I'm not just saying that so that I can have more people come to my class.
Haribol, it will be great honor to listen to Maharaj on that day.
So it's Tuesday at 7 o'clock.
So it'll be on our Zoom line, right, Pierre?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for
Tell your friends about it.
Sure, Prabhuji. Yes, we can move over to more chanting now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you very much again, everybody, for joining us on our Sunday program online. And we hope to see you all again in our upcoming program. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, everyone.